From Al's Toy Barn, it's the IGN Digigods. Please welcome two guys whose defeat will be Zerg's greatest triumph, Wade Major and Mark Kaiser.
So, Mark.
Yes.
Am I getting an audio out of you?
I don't know.
There we go. Now I'm
getting it. You tell me.
Yeah, the stuff was fritzing around a little bit earlier. 2 words. Roger Ebert.
I know. That was sad.
You know,
I love Roger.
And this is what happens, obviously, when we pre-record shows a little bit early. We literally missed Roger Ebert's death on the last show by like a day of pre-recording. So it came off as being unbelievably not timely. So we now have an opportunity to discuss the man who is sort of the single most legendary figure of our craft. And
I believe that is a well-deserved accolade.
You know, it's interesting. Only 2 film critics have ever won the Pulitzer for criticism.
Wade Major.
No. Highly unlikely that will that will ever happen.
That'd be awesome.
You have to work for a publication that actually submits you and, you know, kind of gets behind you and pushes the buttons. But no, Roger Ebert was the first, and our good friend Joe Morgenstern was the second, and so far the only other one. So Joe is now the only living film critic, and probably will be the last film critic ever to receive a Pulitzer for film criticism, because the profession will not exist in 5 years.
I don't know, man. I disagree. I believe that Dude Lover 609. The guy who posts on Rotten Tomatoes,
yeah,
that guy totally rocks.
Yeah,
and the way his opinions are all cool and stuff and junk.
Yeah,
I think that guy is totally totally cool.
He will win the Pulitzer, P-O-O.
He will win the Pulitzer Prize.
Yeah,
I remember producing Roger Ebert on a talk show that I did like in the mid '90s.
Yeah,
and you know when he walks in the room and you talk to him. You felt like, because my job is to brief the talent on is to brief the guest on their appearance and what they're going to talk about and whatnot. And when you sat down with him, it was almost like you were sitting down with a filmmaker. I mean, he had his opinion at that time, before and after, was so definitive.
Yeah.
And you wanted to know what he thought of whatever I asked him about, because you wanted to know what the definitive voice of film criticism thought about a movie.
And you know what was always...
And whatever you thought, by the way, was wrong, because whatever he said was right.
And of course, you know, we all agreed with him sometimes and disagreed with him at other times. But he was always sort of, you know, he was the archetypal film critic for so many people, partly, I think, because he was not a coastal guy. He was not a New York sophisticate or a Hollywood insider. He was a Midwesterner. He's a guy from Chicago. And yes, you know, everybody makes fun of the fact that, you know, he worked with Russ Meyer. He had, you know, he dabbled as a screenwriter in the schlock generation. But nonetheless, he was an outsider. He was completely an outsider to Hollywood, and he was a really old-fashioned Chicago newspaper guy. And, you know, the kind they don't make anymore. I mean, they broke the mold on that. But it was always interesting at the Cannes Film Festival to see when he would moderate before the cancer took him. He used to moderate the American Independence at Cannes panel, which, you know, for those who know the Cannes Film Festival, they have these pavilions. They're these kind of tent cities that they set up in the around the Palais, which is, you know, it has a big plaza, a big campus area around the Palais where films screen. And in that walking plaza area that's right by the beach, they create these little tent cities. And there's the British Pavilion and the American Pavilion, and they're you know, more than tent cities. They're it's just a nice place where journalists from various countries can go and hang out and grab something to drink and watch an NBA game by satellite. You know, if you're at the American Pavilion, stuff like that. And one of the events that's hosted every year at the American Pavilion is the American Independence at Cannes, where they have a panel of all the directors who have films in the various sections, the official section and, you know, Critics Week and Directors Fortnight and whatever it is, and they'll have a discussion about American independent film. And Roger Ebert used to moderate that panel. And the amazing thing was that the most interesting thing about that panel was always Roger Ebert. You know, you could have Kevin Smith on there. You could have Tarantino on there. It didn't matter who the filmmaker was. You know, you would think these are superstar independent filmmakers, and they're doing their thing, and they're talking the talk, and they're funny, and they're quick. But somehow, the most interesting stuff was always Roger Ebert. And even though he asked the question and they answered, then he would sometimes come in with his own insights, and you're like, wow, you're actually a lot smarter than anybody else on this panel.
Well, the thing that I loved about Roger and his writing especially is that his writing was very clean, and it was clean and deceptively simple. You know,
True.
And what people liked about him, he was almost like Us Plus. He was the regular guy, a regular Joe, who just happened to have these great insights on film. And because he was a regular guy, you didn't think he was a film school guy, or because he didn't go to film school.
No.
You know, or he was some rich guy up on a hill proclaiming a film good or bad.
Right.
You know, he was just like he had a certain Joe six-pack. And believe me, it was a 12-pack with Roger. It wasn't just a six-pack, it was a 12-pack. But he had that sort of everyman appeal, and yet he was just like the average fan, just a little bit smarter, and he embraced that sort of everyman sense of his own identity.
Well, it's a huge loss for our profession. Especially at a time when film criticism really is kind of an endangered species. I mean, it's newspapers increasingly are laying off film critics, and they at Movie City News they've had that list of the last 121 or whatever it's down to film critics in America, and of course I was one of the last on it. Now, so much for me. The box office terminated me from that list. So
that's right.
So even though I'm still at NPR, but that was like. Those are newspaper people and magazine people, and it's pretty sad to see what's happened to official newspaper and print film criticism. And Roger Ebert's passing really does seem like it brings it all home.
Well, it does feel now. It does feel as if we've crossed that threshold where now there's almost no hope for thoughtful, well written, well reasoned, well argued, influential, culturally influential criticism anymore.
Very true.
Now, there's still great. By the way, do you remember in the early days of LAFCA? Early days meaning that when I first joined. Mm-hmm. There's BM.
Yeah, before Mark.
Yeah, that's the other BM.
I was just going to say. I'm going to save you on that one.
After Mark.
Yes.
There was a resistance to let online only critics be members of LAFCA.
Huge resistance.
And at the time, I understood it because. This was my joke about a typical online film review circa, 2006. This is what it was. Let's say the movie was Die Hard 3, whatever it was. Whatever that Die Hard was in 2006.
Yeah.
This is my review of Die Hard 3. When I was a boy, I had a teacher, and her name was Mrs. Crabapple. And Mrs. Crabapple was really a mean person, and I didn't like Mrs. Crabapple. And I remember once that I had to write a book report on A Catcher in the Rye, and I didn't want to do the book report because Mrs. Crabapple was mean, and she gave us a really early deadline. So I read the book in like 2 seconds, and then I wrote a book report, and I didn't like the book, and then I turned it in, and Mrs. Crabapple said to me, well, if you don't have anything nice to say, then don't say anything at all. And that brings me to Die Hard. It sucked. The end. And that would be a review.
I know.
That would be an early online review. You get into this whole thing about how, you had to write your term paper, and no one gives a crap. Just show about film, you can write about film. However, now we're in 2013.
Yes.
Lots of great writing about film on the internet.
I was going to say the funny thing now is that in LAFCA, pretty much everyone in LAFCA, their only outlet now is online.
Yeah, it has to be.
I mean, if you accept, Kenny, who writes for the LA Times, and you accept Joe, who writes for the Wall Street Journal. I mean, look, even Peter Rayner, Christian Science Monitor, online only. Right? So, you start looking at the emeritus members around the room, and, Leonard Maltin, LeonardMaltin.com.
H.J. Park. There is no way the Korean Times is online. It's got to be a paper.
You got me.
It's got to be a paper.
Yeah, it is a paper.
So, what I'm saying...
And that will go for Harriet, too, because that's her outlet as well.
Is it really?
Yeah. Didn't you know that?
I'm sure. Her Korean, I'm sure, is great.
It's hysterical. It's really outrageously funny. Harriet has like a column in the Korean Times. I don't even know what's in it. All I know is it's Harriet's face and a bunch of Korean.
So, point being... The point being, here's what we've learned: a lot of great writing on the internet. Right? I love reading. I love reading the AV Club. Mm-hmm. I love reading Salon. There's a lot of great writing on the internet. No doubt about it.
Yep.
Can't be denied. The other thing we took away from this is that Roger Ebert's death is not only tragic for him and his family, but it's also tragic because we have crossed the Rubicon in terms of the culture valuing film criticism.
Absolutely.
So, Roger, rest in peace.
All right. Well, with that, we are 10 minutes into the show, so we are going to move on to the thing that the show is about. We're going to do our very bestest to squeeze in a Vox Box and to squeeze in some listener mail. A lot of great listener mail has come in. And, on top of everything else, as if we're not schedule slammed enough, and me, of course, with diaper changes and whatnot.
Mark, I'm redoing my kitchen.
Yeah, Mark's redoing his kitchen. And Mark was one who was supposed to be on the Colcoa jury this year, and somehow me, who's already been on it twice, I wound up on it. So on top of everything else, I've got like there are 31 films. Mark, did you know that Colcoa has 31 films in competition, which is an obscenely obnoxious number. That's more than you even have to see at Cannes in 2 weeks.
No. Why don't you tell people how long you have to see these movies?
Well, I've seen 8 already. So that means what's 31 minus 23. I have 23 films to see in the next 7 days. On top of everything else that I have to do.
Now, why don't you admit? I'm going to put you on the
some
spot.
of them I'm going to watch 10 minutes of, and I'm going to go, this is a piece of crap. I will never vote for it, and I will move on. Yes, you have to. And the other thing is, if other members of the jury, and in fairness, this is kind of how it works. This is sort of an unwritten rule thing. But if 3 other people on the jury have already seen a film and say they're categorically not going to vote for it,
what's the point?
There's no point. Then I don't have to watch it. So there are a few of those pending. There are probably about 5 or 6 films that look like they are receiving such low grades that I'm just going to cross them right off. So, but it's a good jury this year. Jeannie and Lael. Jeannie's on it. Lael, I've been on the jury with Jeannie before. Lael is president of the jury. Lael, who used to write for Box Office as well. Lael Lowenstein.
By the way.
And then Justin from Variety.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, Justin's on.
I want to be on that jury.
Do you really?
I do. It would be fun. And by the way, speaking of film critics never get any print outlets anymore, I just want to say, shout out to our friend Amy Nicholson, because I was reading the LA Times the other day.
I was going to say Chuck Wilson, by the way, is the last person on the jury.
Oh, Chuck?
Chuck's on.
That's cool.
Good. Yeah. So shout out to Amy Nicholson. Why? Because she got a piece in the LA Times?
No, she's writing for the LA Times now.
Well, because Kenny Tran was one of her teachers in school.
Well, I'm just saying.
Yeah, I know.
I mean,
congratulations for her.
I emailed her, I Facebooked her,
That's very nice.
and I said congratulations, you know.
Yep.
And she said she's lowest on the totem pole, but whatever. At least she's on the totem pole.
She's on the totem pole.
That's right. Mm-hmm. So there is still hope.
Mm-hmm.
And when I say hope, I mean no hope.
Well, I mean, it helps when Kenny was one of your teachers. I mean, look, that's how it works. So anyway, we're going to, I guess Earth Day is coming up. I don't really know what day Earth Day is.
Who gives a crap?
Well, look, I can't track holidays. I don't even know look, when you have a baby, I don't even know what month it is anymore. All I know is that a diaper needs to be changed. So the only holidays I actually know the dates of, to be honest.
Yes, Christmas?
Christmas, New Year's, and 4th of July. And 2 of those because the name of the holiday is the date. Babies. So otherwise, if it's not one of those, I have no idea when it is. So I don't know when Earth Day is. I don't even know if it's an official holiday. All I know is it's coming up, and we got a bunch of DVDs we got to mention and talk briefly about it. So first one really has very little to do with the Earth Day, but I'm going to take advantage of the opportunity to the title is kind of earthy, so I'm going to mention this because it's a really cool film. Over Your City's Grass Will Grow, which is an incredibly cool documentary by Ray Fiennes' sister, Sophie Fiennes, who, if a lot of people didn't know, is a very talented filmmaker and has been for quite some time. She made a lovely, lovely documentary about Anselm Kiefer. Now, if you don't know who Anselm Kiefer is, he's an artist, and he's one of these artists who's just he's born in Germany, right? And he does these like installation art, right? But he's not like Christo. He's not like Christo. Christo does, like, he puts skirts around islands, and he puts umbrellas in the grapevine,
and then one of the umbrellas falls down and kills someone.
It kills somebody. I actually saw those umbrellas. By the way, I was to digress onto a tangent. I was a PA on that horrible film, The Legend of Wolf Mountain, that Mickey Rooney film. Dreadful movie that they still never paid me for. They owe me $250 for that film, by the way, 20 years ago, and I'm still owed the $250 for my PA work, so screw them. And I was on the LA unit. I was a PA on the LA unit, which is just ridiculous. It was horrible, most unprofessional thing ever. And I had the camera in the van, and they gave me such bad directions for the location, which was up near Magic Mountain, that I actually missed the off-ramp, and I wound up in the grapevine. And then I wound up, and by the time I saw Christo's umbrellas, I was like, crap, I'm going to be so late. They can't shoot. I have the camera. I'm literally delaying the shoot by like half an hour, because once you're in the grapevine, you're stuck.
You are stuck.
You've got to drive like 8 miles before there's another off-ramp that you can use to turn around and go back.
That is correct.
Anyway, so that's my story about Christo's damn umbrellas.
Why are we not talking about
We're talking about, now we're going to talk about Over Your City's Grass Will Grow. So installation artist, Anselm Kiefer. It's really fascinating. He went to this silk factory in the south of France, and just started doing this just really cool kind of abstract construction and painting thing. It's got like tunnels and towers, and it's just amazing. And it really is. It's just it's just like this bizarre abstract vision that he makes real, and he's a gritty guy, and he just builds this stuff, and it's an incredible insight into a very bizarre yet empowering kind of artistic vision. And I'm going to take advantage of the fact that it's called Over Your City's Grass Will Grow and recommend this for Earth Day. It has very little to do with the Earth, but I think it's cool. I think it's cool.
Wait.
I think it's cool. Check it out.
Listen to me.
Yeah.
You want to check out something?
What?
You should check out Dirty Energy.
Oh yeah.
Now, Dirty Energy is a terrific little effort from a director named Mark R. Leeper. Now, this is all about the Deepwater Horizon oil spill, which totally just decimated the Louisiana Bayou. And the doc is not so much about the disaster, although, of course, that's in it, but it's really about how the disaster impacted all the fishermen and the locals in Louisiana. And the Deepwater tragedy, it's like the biggest environmental disaster in U.S. history.
Ugh.
It killed like a dozen people, and I think the number was 200 million barrels of oil spilled into the ocean.
Right.
And, stuff like that, you just realize that just people are
lame.
Doomed. We're just doomed.
Yeah.
We're doomed as a people.
But we can make some good movies along the way.
And this is one of them.
Yeah.
Dirty Energy. Anyway, it's certainly not high-polished stuff, but he picked some good subjects to interview. There's a couple features on the special features on the DVD. So it's from Cinema Libre Studios. We all know what Cinema Libre is about, and we do like them. So I would check out Dirty Energy. It's a bit of an activist documentary as well. The idea that the gas industry, the oil industry, they're all very politically tied in, and there's not much we can do about it. Although there is a call to action at the end, but still, Dirty Energy, good stuff. Check it out.
Sebastian Copeland is a filmmaker, an activist, an environmentalist, an explorer. He's amazing. And he and another explorer made a movie called Into the Cold about their trek to the North Pole. And it's fascinating. I mean, it is, by the time you even get to where you can start, it's like a 400-mile trek that takes months, like 2, sometimes 3 months. It's endless. And it is a really, really fascinating film, has all kinds of really fascinating climate change ramifications, and it's just gorgeously shot. It's unbelievably great photography, if nothing else. You definitely got to check it out. There's also a special feature on here, Antarctica, the Global Warning, which is, obviously about the other pole.
Clever, the global
Isn't the global warning, isn't it cool? Anyway, this was the Tribeca Film Festival. It's from Shelter Island, who has done a number of other cool little films like Whittle, the Jet Pioneer, which was their first release. And you got to check it out. I mean, the North Pole is great. And not to make a spoiler, but at the end of this film, they find a fat little guy and some elves. I'm just saying.
What?
They find a fat little guy and some elves.
What are you talking about?
I'm telling you.
You're talking about Willis.
I'm telling you.
By the way, can I say something?
What?
Now, I know this DVD came out like 3 years ago, and it's a horribly mastered DVD.
Yeah.
But I don't care. I had a friend of mine crashed at my place over the weekend, and an old friend of mine up from San Diego.
Yep.
So she crashed on my couch.
Right.
And we were wanted to watch a movie last Friday night.
Totally.
And she's looking at my copious collection,
Yes.
my selection of DVDs and Blu-rays.
Yes.
This is what she picks. By the way, this will entertain nobody but Wade Major.
Okay.
Of all the movies,
Yes.
of all the TV shows,
Yes.
of all the documentaries,
Yes.
of all the concerts,
Of everything you have.
everything in the world.
Everything you have.
This is what she picks. My 4-disc set, the best of the Match Game.
Oh, that's the best.
It's the greatest of all time. And literally, for the entire weekend, that's what we watched. We watched... no one knows what you're doing. Friday night, we watched it. Saturday morning, we watched it. But Saturday night, after we got home from dinner, we watched it. It was and the 4-disc set, which, by the way, I'm not praising the set because it's horribly done, but the Match Games themselves are priceless. 2 of the episodes that are featured on this 4-DVD set featured a contestant from Wichita, Kansas, an interior designer named Kirstie Alley.
Wow.
I'm done. Nobody. That's not entertaining.
Her blank was so big. BBC Earth gave us Africa, Eye to Eye with the Unknown. This is a Blu-ray 2-disc set with Ultraviolet, and it's lovely. And the BBC guy, they have the best cinematographers in the world. It's just staggering. Africa is an amazing continent. It is the most feature-rich, wildlife-rich continent on the planet. It is extraordinary. So much of it is endangered and threatened by not just pollution, but poaching and neglect, frankly. Even in the countries that have huge wildlife reserves and preserves set aside, it just they don't have the resources or the money to really take care of it. So that's why stuff like this is so important. And of course, like anything natural that has anything British flavor to it, David Attenborough is the host, and he's so good, and his voice and his presence lend such credibility to it. And you know what? Again, beautifully photographed, just impeccable. There are featurettes on every single episode of this, and there's an interview stuff with David Attenborough and some of the others. It's wonderful, absolutely wonderful. And then equally wonderful is Disney Nature's Wings of Life, which is a Blu-ray DVD combo. This one's narrated by Meryl Streep. And this is some of that amazing high-speed photography that gives you a look at butterflies and hummingbirds and all flying things, gnats and wasps and all that kind of stuff. Bees. It's pretty great. And by the way, bees are screwed. You heard this, right?
Good.
Like there are beekeepers, and my grandfather was a beekeeper, my uncles were beekeepers, so I know a little bit about beekeeping. And there are beekeepers in the Midwest and in the West who lost 70% of their hive population because of these pesticides that they're using. No,
poor
seriously.
Bees that can't sting people. Miserable bees who do nothing for us. Nothing. Zero.
We need them to pollinate.
Whatever. The flowers will figure something else out. They'll sprout wings. Whatever.
When we all start starving because
we're not going to starve. We can make synthetic honey. Bees don't help us.
Yes, they do. Bees
and growing corn.
Bees, yes, they do. Bees are essential. They are so important to the ecosystem.
They are not.
They are so
we
important.
can live without bees. I'm telling you. What the hell do bees do? They don't do anything. Well, seriously. If I want ice cream, do I need a bee to make ice cream?
You do if it's like honey flavored ice cream.
No, but okay,
honey sweetened.
We can make synthetic honey. Okay, it's the 21st century.
Really, you want what?
Synthetic,
Monsanto organically, genetically engineered artificial honey.
Either Monsanto artificial honey or bee vomit. Okay, because that's what honey is. And by the way, do I really need a bee to make bread? I need a bee to make bread.
You might. This is spectacular. You got to check this out. Wings of Life. It's just beautiful. Hummingbirds, especially. I love hummingbirds.
Screw them too, by the way.
They're the coolest things in the world. They're stupid, though. By the way, you know what? At Christy's parents' house once, a hummingbird flew in around Christmas time. It took 3 people with brooms and sticks like an hour and a half to chase that damn thing out with all the windows and doors open. They are the dumbest birds. Hummingbirds are just beyond stupid. They're like pigeons with a lobotomy. They're cool, they fly, they do amazing things, but they are dumb beyond belief. Anyway, carry on.
It's like that scene from Big Chill. Remember the scene in the Big Chill where they go into the attic and there's a bat there and they chase it out of the thing?
Just like that, exactly.
Okay. Anyway, 2 Blu-rays from National Parks Exploration Series. I'm recommending these because if you have a high-def set, this will show it off big time. One is called Voyageurs, Spirit of the Boundary Waters. Now, I had never heard of the Voyageurs National Park. It's a park up North America, the largest pristine wilderness in the lower 48 states, and there's some amazing photography here, stunning high definition stuff. That is Voyageurs, Spirit of the Boundary Waters. There's another one in the same series called Glacier, Crown of the Continent, and these are amazing shots of the Glacier National Park, and it's great. I mean, if you love to hike, by the way, now I've never been in the Glacier National Park, but from watching this Blu-ray, I can tell you that if you love to hike, there's like 700 miles of trails at the Glacier National Park. Yeah. And it's beautiful stuff. Sweet. So I recommend these 2 only to show off your high-def set.
Okay, Mark, before we get into some...
movies people care about?
Movies people care about. Listener mail, Voxbox, all that stuff. No, not yet.
Oh.
I've got some British television. I will do it quickly. You want to time me? Give me 5 minutes. Give me 5 minutes.
Hang on. Whipping out the iPhone.
Okay. Give me 5 minutes to blow through this stuff.
Give me 5 minutes. Hang on. Please hold.
All right.
5 minutes. Okay. 3, 2, 1. Go.
Okay, in the early to mid-'90s, there was a British series, House of Cards, which inspired, of course, the current Kevin Spacey series that is totally burning up Netflix, the first original series on Netflix, produced, of course, by David Fincher. And a lot of people don't realize it originated in the UK. And honestly, I have not seen the Kevin Spacey series yet, But this one, which stars Ian Richardson and David Lyon and Diane Fletcher, the original House of Cards trilogy on Blu-ray from BBC, is fantastic. So if the American version is anything like this, it's got to be amazing and worth every reason why everybody's watching it. It is, of course, it's political corruption and all that stuff. It's just it's a great political soap opera, and especially with the British accents. I can't imagine Kevin Spacey really coming with the kind of weight that Ian Richardson does, but man, is it good. It is just really good. So definitely check out the British version of that. We also have another couple of Alice in Wonderland productions from the BBC. This is Alice in Wonderland and Alice Through the Looking Glass. You know what? They're fine. They're acceptable. I'm not really a huge fan of any Alice in Wonderland production that has ever been done anywhere. There's the old Hollywood one, which is perfectly fine. This one, it's okay. It's well intentioned and well written. So if you're an Alice in Wonderland fan, probably groove to it. Daniel Day-Lewis, now that he is a legendary 3-time Best Actor winner, everybody's digging into their archives and pulling out all the old Daniel Day-Lewis stuff. We've got a Daniel Day-Lewis triple feature, and from both of these are from BBC, and then a Daniel Day-Lewis film called My Brother Jonathan, which is based on a novel by Francis Brett Young. This is all old stuff. The triple feature includes How Many Miles to Babylon, The Insurance Man, and Dangerous Corner. You know what? I mean, there's really absolutely nothing to recommend this. It's just straight up BBC television stuff, but he's good in all of them, especially in How Many Miles to Babylon, which I actually think is really, really, really good. The other stuff is just, only if you're strictly a fan of his. Prime of Miss Jean Brodie was a movie way back in the day that won an Academy Award for Maggie Smith. And this one is a television series, kind of a mini-series done in 7 episodes. And this is from Acorn, and it's perfectly fine. I wouldn't say it's as good as the famous feature film, but it's certainly acceptable. This was originally done in 1978 and has a lovely performance by Geraldine McEwen. So it's recommended, but with kind of semi-reservations. Ripper Street is pretty cool, but pretty kind of gruesome. This is kind of a whole thriller built around Jack the Ripper and the attempts to catch Jack the Ripper. And I don't know why everybody I realize Jack the Ripper is a gruesome subject matter, but it's a little bit intense. So this is actually a series, and this is the first season of it. And I must say it's very impressive, but I don't know that it's worth. They're never going to catch him because then the series ends. The complete collection of No Job for a Lady, which is a lovely comedy starring Penelope Keith. This is kind of a British television classic. It's vanished a little bit in recent years, but worth checking out. If you're a vintage British television comedy fan, you'll enjoy it. Garrow's Law is this is the complete collection. If you want to sort of see the origins of the British legal system and get all into the down and dirty in 18th century England, it's the wigs and it's all kind of pre-colonial and gritty and dirty streets and people saying things like "ow."
Whatever, dude. Keep going.
Miss Fisher's Murder Mysteries. This is kind of like Murder, She Wrote, except she's young and attractive. This is Series 1. I would say it's based on a series of novels by a novelist named Carrie Greenwood. I am not familiar with them, but I will say I enjoy the acting in this. It's a little bit on the long side. There, 13 episodes here, total of like 7.5 hours. And it moves very slowly, but I really like the acting. They're fun mysteries. And because I know I only have seconds left, we've got Dirk Gently, which is an awful lot of fun. This is originally seen on the BBC. This is from Acorn, and this is based on books by Douglas Adams. All I'm going to say is, Douglas Adams, such a fun writer. Dirk Gently, totally a great character in the Douglas Adams vein. We've also got Kingdom, the Stephen Fry thing. It's a complete series, Stephen Fry. 8 DVDs, Kingdom. It's been out before. Real quick, Mind to a Kill, complete collection. Awesome crime drama on the UK. Check it out. It's been out different seasons, been out previously. And then I love this. Chance in a Million, the complete collection. This was a wonderful, wonderful production that starred Simon Callow and Brenda Blethyn. I got to tell you, a young Simon Callow and a young Brenda Blethyn, they are both so wonderful. I love them and everything they've done since.
Not Simon Cowell, the...
No, Simon Callow.
Okay,
4 Weddings and a Funeral.
Sure.
4 Weddings and a Funeral.
Making sure
Simon
you
Callow.
didn't think AI.
This is just great, and it's got commentaries here. Simon Callow on the commentaries. Simon Callow has one of the greatest voices ever ever in the history of movies. He's just wonderful. It's Brigadoon. You remember that from Four Weddings and a Funeral? Hysterical, wonderful actor. And just great here. Terrific. So 2 great actors in a classic of British television. And there we go. Done.
That took more than 5 minutes.
Yeah, whatever.
Okay, so now can we start?
With movies that people care about.
Yes. What are we doing?
I can make mention. Actually, let me make mention real quickly of since we're talking about French films, this is kind of nominally a French film from a Korean director. Hong Sang-soo made a movie with Isabelle Huppert called In Another Country, which was kind of a big deal at Cannes for a moment. And it's weird. It's a French actress in a Korean director's movie, and it's shot in English. So it's sort of a film that has no home in a way. But it's cool. It's like this. It's this cool, artsy. It's a little bit like Lost in Translation with a French woman and a Korean dude, and it's all in English. And it's just it takes place in a Korean resort town, and it's a nice little kind of pastoral, new wavy movie, and it's really nice. And I can't not recommend anything with Isabelle Huppert in it.
What I can recommend, only by strength of the cast and of the sweeping action, is Zulu Dawn.
Oh, dude, Zulu Dawn is rad.
Zulu Dawn, 1979, Burt Lancaster, Peter O'Toole,
what a cast.
Bob Hoskins, great stuff. It's got sweeping
cast.
battles, and it's really totally awesome. It takes place in British South Africa in late 1800s, and it's about the Battle of Islandwana or something I still can't pronounce after having seen the film 3 times in my life. But it's really good stuff. Totally, it's got a great British cast. Simon Ward's in it too. Denholm Elliott, who of course was in Raiders of the Lost Ark. Bob Hoskins, who I mentioned before. Really good stuff. This is actually a prequel to a film that I don't like as much called Zulu, which is in 1964. This is Zulu Dawn, 1979. This is certainly the best film ever directed by Douglas Hickox.
No doubt about it.
Who otherwise directed kind of nothing.
Yeah.
So Zulu Dawn, does it look good on Blu-ray? Yes, and not bad from the people at Severin Films.
Yeah.
Special features. I'm surprised there are any special features on this thing. So you have to commend Severin for even having any forethought when it comes to special features. New interview with an historical advisor, Midge Carter. By the way, if your name is Midge, chances are you're over 50. I'm just putting it out there. Your name is Midge.
Midge?
Yes.
Like Midger of Ultravox? Feed the world. Let them know it's Christmas time.
You're out of your mind.
He wrote and produced that.
Anyway, Zulu Dawn. Watch it for the cast.
Okay.
And the action. Good action.
You know what? Got a bunch of Olive releases here that I'll go through really quickly. They are all, Olive just keeps acquiring all this really cool stuff that people keep wanting released, and that these respective the various distributors in question, mostly Paramount, just won't release. A lot of people have been like, "Where's Monster Squad on Blu-ray? What's wrong with Paramount?" You know what? It's probably one of the best films that Shane Black ever wrote. Shane Black, who is now having a sudden, bizarre career resurgence after going into Howard Hughes mode for like a decade. He's now coming out, and Shane Black's directing the new Iron Man. It's crazy. Anyway, Monster Squad, really one of the more fun films that he wrote. Pretty great. It's out on, executive produced, by the way, of all people, by Peter Hyams and Rob Cohen. I mean, it's amazing the people that had a hand in this movie. No, this is terrific. Great effects by Stan Winston. Really fun. Very, very decent Blu-ray transfer for a movie that's otherwise not that great looking, but just a lot of fun and content. Edgar G. Ulmer is a fascinating figure. Mostly directed Poverty Row movies back in the day. A real lowbrow guy who kind of became like an independent auteur with next to no money and no resources. But he did make a few films, kind of bigger budget and a little bit more legit. And one of them is 1948's Ruthless, which has a tremendous cast that includes, among other people, Martha Vickers and Sidney Greenstreet. And that's tremendous for Ulmer, by the way. I mean, to just have Sidney Greenstreet in an Ulmer film, you're like, wow, that's a coup. Pretty cool, little funky kind of gritty noir. I really thought this movie was terrific. It's not hugely visually dazzling, so I don't know that it really benefits that much from Blu-ray, but it's not bad. The Atomic Kid is very, very funny. This has, we should mention also with the passing of Jonathan Winters, who also passed away, funniest man imaginable. We only now have one remaining original cast member still alive from It's a Mad, 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 Mad World. You know who that is?
Bob Newhart.
Bob Newhart. Is Bob Newhart Mad World?
No, I don't even like that. You know I don't like that movie. That's one of the famous Mark. Why doesn't Mark like that movies?
Suddenly I was like, wait a minute. Did I miss Bob Newhart? Was he in the background with the Three Stooges at some point? How did I miss that?
Well, Sid Caesar's still around, isn't he?
Sid Caesar? Sid Caesar's still around?
Oh, yeah, he's 90.
Is he really?
So, yep, he was born in 1922. He's still around.
Wow,
Sid Caesar.
son of a... All the drugs, and he's still...
Wow. It was the alcohol.
Well, then make it 2 members. I was all about to say Mickey Rooney is still alive.
Mm-hmm. Sid Caesar's still around.
Well, make it 2.
I remember. Sid Caesar's just a bitter old man.
He is. He's
I
angry.
remember. Here's what I remember. This is my Sid Caesar story. This show's going to go on forever.
Yeah, well.
Okay, my Sid Caesar story.
Yes.
I produced him on a talk show, same talk show that I produced Roger Ebert on.
Sure.
Big thrill to interview Sid Caesar, a
Right.
TV pioneer. Folks, you don't know who Sid Caesar is, look him up. TV pioneer in terms of sketch comedy. So at that point, like the mid-'90s, he had already become old and bitter.
Sure.
And I'm talking to him about, in the pre-interview, which is when the celebrity calls you on the phone, and we discuss what we're going to talk about during the show itself. We're talking on the phone about live TV. Oh, Sid, what was it like, live TV? He goes, he's already a bitter old man. Live TV, when we did your show of shows, we were live. If you messed up, it was live. And I said, oh, you mean like SNL on NBC? No, we were live. If you messed up, everybody saw it. There is nothing like that on TV right now. TV is just not the same. There's nothing like that. Oh, you mean like SNL, which is live on NBC every Saturday night on NBC for the last 25 years? Mm-hmm. No, we were live. If you messed up, like, okay, Sid, you know what? Look, you're a pioneer, but I'll give you that one. Goodbye.
Well, okay, so screw that. Anyway, Mickey Rooney. Mickey Rooney is in The Atomic Kid, which is, along with Robert Strauss, who's also very, very funny. The Atomic Kid is a little bit politically incorrect because Mickey Rooney basically survives an atomic blast in Nevada and becomes a celebrity because of it. And, of course, it's not really funny to say, oh, that's hysterical. They blew up an atomic bomb because North Korea is about to actually start a nuclear war.
No,
It's suddenly,
not.
I
They're
know,
not
but it
doing
just
anything.
feels very... So anyway... Go in. You've been warned. It's very much of its era. You know what? A nice little period actioner war thing, real gritty and very in the Samuel Fuller vein is China Gate. If you love Samuel Fuller movies, you will just know it is just testosterone and passion and heat and a little bit of cheesiness, which is what all Sam Fuller movies are. This is from 1957. Angie Dickinson, young and fetching. Lee Van Cleef, just crusty and crotchety. Pretty great. I actually really enjoyed it. That's, of course, on Blu-ray, as these all are. Sandy Dennis is wonderful. That Cold Day in the Park. Directed by Robert Altman from a novel by Richard Miles. Any Altman film with Sandy Dennis is well worth seeing. It's not a great Altman film, but it's definitely worth checking out. Sam Wood, we're going to go through the rest of these real quickly. Sam Wood, another classic Hollywood director of the Golden Era, directed Jean Arthur in The Devil and Miss Jones. Not The Devil in Miss Jones, the porn film, no. This is The Devil and Miss Jones, the film that the porn film riffed on, which most people now have totally forgotten because it was made in 1941. Of course, in 1972 or whatever, when they did the porn film, everybody kind of remembered movies from 1941. By the way, you realize that's like long Devil in Miss Jones is further in our history.
I knew you. You know what? I hate that stuff. This movie is less farther than When We Were Born from the other movie that's closer to When We Were Dead.
That's right.
What does that mean? I still don't understand how
I'm
that's
just
supposed
saying,
to make you go, wow.
We're old.
You know what? Then just say we're old.
Donald Pleasance, Geraldine Chaplin, and Dana Andrews in Innocent Bystanders.
Are there any good movies today this week?
Yeah, totally. This is Olive. We want to make mention of these. This is from 1972. This is a nice.
Damn it.
It's a funky 1972 film. I'll mention the last two real quickly. Sunshine's Bright is a John Ford film that a lot of people have probably never heard of. Definitely worth checking out. It is. It's just great because Will Rogers is in it, basically, and anything that Will Rogers is in is worth checking out. And then lastly, Hell's Half Acre, which is kind of a cool noir that was made in 1954, and not kind of A-list, but it's cool because it's like Hawaiian noir, right? It's set in Hawaii, so it's got a little kind of a tropical vibe to it. Yeah, there you go. Exactly, you got it.
All right, we're a month late on this, but I'm going for it anyway because we never discussed.
Well, they only just sent it to us.
Who Framed Roger Rabbit?
I mean, they didn't send this to us sooner. I couldn't. furnish it sooner.
This movie is unbelievably, fantastically great. It is a classic. It is one of my favorite Disney films of all time. I love this film more than loving films that I love because they're films.
I don't know what that means.
This film is fantastic. Now, I am letting you know that the transfer here is a very good transfer. However, because the movie itself was a very technically ambitious at the time blend of animation and live action, that kind of renders the transfer here less than ideal. Again, they did the best job they could considering the challenges of making the film at the time, but still, there's a lot of great features, Blu-ray exclusive features on this thing. There's also a DVD if you buy the Blu-ray, and it's just great stuff. Do you realize who? First of all, you realize who was supposed to direct this film?
Originally?
Lots of people were supposed to direct this film.
I know JJ wrote a sequel to it that never got made.
No. Here's who turned this film down. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Because originally the studio didn't want Bob Zemeckis.
That's weird.
They did not.
Why would you not want Bob Zemeckis?
Because his previous films weren't that great.
Oh,
or didn't.
Romancing the Stone? Really?
Well, okay, whatever.
Come on.
Hey, look, I just worked. Well, it's also like used cars and whatever.
Yeah, right.
Terry Gilliam.
Yeah,
Terry Gilliam turned it down.
I can see that. I can see them wanting him, and I could see him turning it down.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which is kind of true. Although it would be a way more twisted film because with Zemeckis back on board, it was a twisted film, but it was fun twisted. Whereas with Zemeckis, you would get that crazy anarchic sort of humor, which I don't know if Roger Rabbit really needs. But anyway, Spielberg was also because is this Amblin too? No, it's Touch. Yes, it's a Steven Spielberg film.
Yeah.
Spielberg was instrumental in getting all the classic cartoon characters to appear in the movie. Which is great. Although he didn't get everybody
from
Disney,
from Disney and Warner Brothers, and you even get Droopy, which is a nice trick.
That's right, but he didn't get Popeye.
No,
and he didn't get Casper,
and didn't get Woody Woodpecker.
Well, that's fine.
Yeah. So
pretty much all the Harvey Comics ones. But anyway, Roger Rabbit.
Yeah.
Don't stop the recording.
I'm not.
Who Framed Roger Rabbit? Fantastic film. Love it. One of my all-time favorites. Bob Hoskins, one of the great Oscar slights of all time.
True.
Tell me it's not true.
I agree.
He should have been nominated for Best Actor.
Would have been amazing.
Was not.
I'm going to mention some old films here, a cool comedy and 3 noir, before Mark gets into this just luscious, goopy bunch of criterions. On Approval is a fascinating British comedy because it was directed by Lindsay Anderson, and it's kind of a forgotten film. This is out from Inception. And it's just a fascinating 1944 kind of missing movie, to be honest. It's just sort of vanished. But there's a great commentary on here by Jeffrey Vance that fills in all the blanks. And Stills Gallery of stuff from the British Film Institute collection that it just really kind of gives you all the luster of when the film was made. It is really a lovely, lovely movie. And it's based on a play. It is incredibly funny. And it's got Googie Withers in it, and if you don't know Googie Withers, she's just a delight. One of the great actresses of that time, and it's directed by Lindsay Anderson, who just went on to make movies nothing like this at all. So it's a great artifact. That's on Blu-ray from Inception, and then we got 3 great noirs here. Laura is one of the all-time great noirs ever, maybe the best role Dana Andrews ever had. Gene Tierney.
It's about time that came out on Blu-ray.
Oh my gosh, it's gorgeous. From 20th Century Fox. It is an above-average Blu-ray transfer. The black and white, it gets a little chalky in places. I wasn't totally enthralled by it. I thought they could have done a better job, but really, best thing that Dana Andrews ever did. One of the best things Otto Preminger ever did. Some of the best music ever written for a movie ever.
And the first movie where I was able to fit by the, I'm gonna, because you're not going to give that to me, are you?
No, hell no.
All right. Well, that's the first movie where I realized that the name of a character says a lot about them.
Yep.
And that is all I will say. Because if you want to know who the villain is in this movie, just look at everybody's name.
There you go. And then Postman Always Rings Twice, the original John Garfield, Lana Turner movie, which is sensational. It was, of course, remade with Jack Nicholson and Jessica Lange. And there are lots of other movies, foreign movies, like Judo, for example, the Zhang Yimou film, Oscar-nominated, that have a certain kind of Postman Always Rings Twice vibe to them. Of course, you could also say that Double Indemnity has kind of a Postman Always Rings Twice vibe.
One of my favorite movies of all time.
You could even say Body Heat is kind of a riff on that, right? I mean, they all sort of... they all camp out in the same territory. Anyway, just in the novel originally was written by James M. Cain, who also wrote Double Indemnity, so it's not surprising that it would have a lot of those same elements to it. But this is really a pretty terrific Blu-ray from Warner Brothers. They didn't make it into a Blu-ray book, I assume because they didn't think there'd be any interest in it, but the transfer is just as impressive as if it were a Blu-ray book, so very good. And then a little bit lesser known, also from 20th Century Fox, is Panic in the Streets. Panic in the Streets was more of a big deal then. It's kind of faded from view a little bit.
I like this movie.
But it's a really cool movie. And, not one of Elia Kazan's best, but certainly a worthwhile film. Very meaningful film. Kind of a good, kind of an interesting social paranoia thing going for it. Richard Widmark, you see why he was one of the dominant actors at that time, why he was such a heavy hitter. And also Barbara Bel Geddes, we always forget what a great actress she was. She was, the grandmother or the mother on Dallas for so long. That was her persona. And then a few people found out, oh, look, she plays that matronly figure who paints and talks to Jimmy Stewart when he needs somebody to bounce ideas off of in Vertigo. But she's also a really, really good actress from the era, and she's in Panic in the Streets as well. Very, very good, really solid performance from her. So
you know why Panic in the Streets, I'm glad this is on Blu-ray finally. You know why? Because when I streamed this on Netflix, it froze like 10 minutes into the movie.
Really?
Yep. It would not unfreeze.
That was actually part of the director's cut.
No, it's not.
Yeah, it is.
I'm going to write that down.
You do
get that because you won't give it to me.
No.
Wade, here's
Panic
the
in
thing,
the
Wade.
Streets. Yes.
Let me tell you what I saw this morning.
What'd you see?
I saw a movie this morning.
What'd you see?
I saw a movie called Antiviral, which is the film debut of Brandon Cronenberg, who is David Cronenberg's. And you know what?
What?
Interesting movie.
Really?
Yes.
Seriously?
The apple didn't fall far from the tree stylistically.
Really?
However, when it comes to what this film is about, interesting stuff.
Seriously?
It is although you do get wrapped up into he's so much like his dad sort of stylistic excesses and whatnot. Very austere and very creepy and that kind of stuff. And there's some, body
blah blah blah.
Body blah blah blah. And the actual plot of the film, the story, the way it goes, is very interesting. It's very much about our celebrity culture and our obsession with celebrities. That is what the movie's about. Anyway, I bring that up because one of the 3 Criterion films we have to talk about is Naked Lunch. Now, Naked Lunch was directed by Brandon's father, David Cronenberg, and this is based on the 1950s novel from, obviously, William S. Burroughs. And the reason why it took, 1959, 1991... 10, 20, 30, 40. The reason it took about 42 years to make this novel into a film is because it was considered unfilmable. And if anyone's going to take on an unfilmable movie, it would be David Cronenberg. And you know what? This movie is just a mixed bag for me. You know what? It's very cerebral, but yet it's very kind of flip and kind of funny. And it's definitely in its own little world. He does the best he can to make a nonlinear novel into a moderately linear film. And Peter Weller, God love him, the guy. It's just a thankless role, but he does a great job as an exterminator and a drug addict. And it very much is what Cronenberg likes, which is it's a bit out there, and it's about a guy who's destroying his own body. Pretty much every Cronenberg film is about a guy destroying his own body. And so, anyway,
it's kind of true, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah.
And so the movie's a little bit warped, and it's a little bit fun. It's pretty much as unfilmable as you would think. But still, I have to give it to Cronenberg for coming up with a halfway decent, better than expected adaptation of Burroughs' Naked Lunch. Anyway, as usual, Criterion goes nuts with the extras. Great new digital transfer, a making of from 1992. I love those vintage making ofs. There's an essay. There's an audio recording of Burroughs reading from his novel Naked Lunch, which is good stuff. Gallery of photos, which is kind of like who cares. But I think you guys should give Naked Lunch a try. I think you will totally dig it.
Awesome.
Now, Wade, when I say the words Repo Man, what do you think?
Alex Cox's Repo Man.
That's what you think?
Yeah, that's all I think. That's it. I've never had a car repoed. All I can think of is aliens in a trunk and a really cool low budget movie that pretty much ended Alex Cox's career. It did. It's like he didn't do anything afterwards. He just went away and made weird movies like The Highwayman and stuff like that.
Now, this has been on DVD before, but it has begged for a definitive Blu-ray version, if not a definitive DVD version, too. And this is kind of it. This is from Criterion. This is great stuff. This is approved by Alex Cox. And what can I say about Repo Man? It is like the ultimate cult film. It's certainly one of the ultimate cult films of the 80s, if not of any time. It is really wildly out there. I mean, you talk about Naked Lunch being out there. Naked Lunch is out there in a very kind of cerebral way. Repo Man is out there in just a fun punk kind of a way. It is, again, like Wade says, it is low budget, and if you're a teenager or a young adult, you will totally groove on this film. It is baffling and crazy, and I don't know what happens at the end. There's some sort of thing, something explodes at the end. I'm not quite sure I understood what it was, but there you go. And I like this film a lot. This is but you have to be in the mood for a film like this because it definitely does whatever it wants to do, as Alex Cox's want to do.
Yep.
So there you go, Repo Man. It looks pretty good. It's a very low budget film, but it does look good. There is a audio commentary with Alex Cox and some of the producers. There's new interviews with Iggy Pop and some of the actors. There's a roundtable discussion about the making of the film, which I liked a lot, which included Cox and a couple of the producers. And yeah, good stuff. So Repo Man is the second Criterion film this week.
Yeah, and then we got the third, which is actually my favorite.
Well, then you can talk about it. Then you can talk about it if you like it that much.
I do.
If you like it that much, why don't you marry it?
Okay, fine, I will. It's actually a Japanese movie, which Mark just hates talking about.
That's not true.
Well, you hate talking about obscure early Japanese New Wave movies because you don't want to have to pronounce this guy's name. That's the problem, and I don't either.
See, Gate of Hell is good. What I like better, Gates of Flesh.
Okay, fine.
Which is another film from that time in that country.
True. Gate of Hell is a movie by Tainasuke Kinugasa. If there's anyone who speaks Japanese, you're going to tell me, no, it's... No.
The great thing about the Japanese language, and again, I spent 3 weeks in Japan, and I was kind of talking to people and getting to absorb as much of the culture and language as I could. The great thing about Japanese names is that there's no weird pronunciations. Exactly as you see it, just take a beat, read it slowly, read it phonetically. There's no crazy accents or long E's or short E, whatever. Just read the name and you'll be right.
Well, anyway.
So his name is Tainasuke Kinugasa.
Okay,
That's
fine.
it.
All right.
That's it.
Tough one for me.
Stars Kazuo Hasegawa. That's it.
Brilliant. Well, good for you.
No crazy things going on like English.
Not a lot of extras on this, but it's a terrific movie. Wonderful transfer. It's in color from 1953. And this actually won an Academy Award for Best Foreign Language Film. And it's pretty awesome. It's a medieval thing. It takes place in 12th century Japan, and basically concerns a warrior who falls in love with a woman who is married. And you would think that's just we've seen that a million times, but all the ramifications of Japanese society and period Japan and all of those weird feudal things. Feudal Japan is just such a fascinating, unusual social structure. It doesn't mirror anything else anywhere in world history in any other culture. So
talking about feudal Japan, it's just feudal.
Ouch.
Sounds like something you'd say.
Ow.
Meaning it's not funny.
Yeah. So anyway, really, really good film. Great transfer. Not a lot of extras, but if you love Japanese films from the period, check it out. And then lastly, we got a couple of musicals, Mark. Yay. Musicals long overdue.
I like both those.
Both of them on Blu-ray from 20th Century Fox. Both of them okay transfers. That Thing You Do, Tom Hanks' directing debut.
Awesome, love it.
Which I adore this film.
Yep, good stuff.
I mean, seriously. We go on to call it the Oneaters. That was fun.
Yep,
it's
good
just
stuff.
so funny.
Yep, love it.
This is the film basically that made Steve Zahn when he said goofy things like that.
What happened to Steve Zahn?
The Oneaters. He priced himself out of independent films.
What happened to?
I'm
going to IMDb Steve Zahn right now because I have to know.
Yeah,
What the heck happened to Steve Zahn?
It's amazing. Anyway, Tom Everett Scott, Liv Tyler, Jonathan Skeck. It's a really fun film about a band, kind of trying to work their way up in the 1960s and become, the next big thing. And they wind up becoming, of course, a one-hit wonder, and they're called the Wonders. It's great.
Oh, he's done a bunch of Tremés.
Has he?
Yeah, the HBO show.
That's what he's doing then.
Wow.
That's all he's doing.
God, that guy was like...
I know, he was the next funny thing.
He was like the Zach Galifianakis of 2004.
He kind of was. Anyway, this is a great movie. It's fine on Blu-ray, not dazzling. Hello, Dolly. I have been waiting for so long. It's funny because this is what Christy sings to make our daughter go to sleep and it usually works.
Freaking kid.
Absolutely. She's adorable, isn't she?
You know what? It's pretty Hall of Fame cute, that kid.
She's Hall of Fame cute, all right. Anyway,
Outstanding.
Hello, Dolly is one of the all-time big disasters in musical history. I mean, this movie just tanked unbelievably hard, and it's amazing because it's really a lot of fun. Gene Kelly directed this. He's not on screen, but he directed it. Tommy Tune is in this with his, 18-foot body and his 24-feet legs.
The thing is that Gene Kelly used to, he directed a bunch of movies. He used to co-direct stuff because he would direct the dancing scenes.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then somebody else would
He
direct
directed
the
the whole thing of this, and it pretty much ended his directing career. But Barbara Streisand is wonderful. Walter Matthau, hairy ears and all, just wonderful. And Michael Crawford. Same Michael Crawford from The Knack and How to Get It, and, of course, Phantom of the Opera. So he's just wonderful. I just think this is a great Hollywood spectacle. It's unfortunate it lost so much money at the time, but it's really, really terrific, and I just can't say enough about it. Michael Kidd choreographed the whole thing, and Michael Kidd and Tommy Tune, there's a really interesting axis there, because Tommy Tune's choreography now is sort of like Michael Kidd 2.0. It's really fascinating if you sort of know choreography history. Not a perfect transfer. I could have done with something better and a lot splashier, but this certainly, you know what, not having had this at all for the longest time, I will take it, even with only 2 featurettes as extras. And the other thing is that this is kind of, Hello, Dolly has experienced a bit of a resurgence and a reevaluation, thanks to what movie, Mark?
Oh, Star Wars.
Wall-E, come on. Wall-E used to watch, he fell in love with Eve because of the little... I
don't remember any of that film.
He used to watch Hello, Dolly, clip from Hello, Dolly.
You know what? If that happened during the first half hour of Wall-E, that's great. If it happened during the last hour that wasn't very good, then that's another thing.
All right. And now we're going to get into some listener mail. No, not yet. Listener mail and then VoxBox. And we might try to get to a little bit of television. But, Mark, I have to admit, this is one of the funniest and most awesomely cool listener mails we've ever had. And I'm going to read this, and you know what this is because you loved it. This is from Dave in Dublin, Ireland. God, I love the Irish. They have such a great sense of humor. I love my Irish, my 25% Irish, thanks to my grandmother. My grandmother, Nora Bell, love you. After listening to the Digigods podcast for so long, I've begun to notice that Mark has a lot of catchphrases, some used more frequently than others.
Yeah, I think I used a couple today.
Some deliberate, and some he probably doesn't even realize he's saying. So I thought I'd compile a list for your amusement. On the topic of you guys doing a movie review show for IGN, would love to see it happen. Miss your weekly banter on new movies. So here we go. Can I just say something? Mark wants to make a point.
Are you going to read all these?
Yeah.
Oh, God.
By the way, Mark wants to make a point 2.0. Don't stop the recording.
I said that today.
Yeah, Mark can't remember the name of a movie. Star Wars. Wade can't remember the name of a movie. Oh, stupid. Insert cute animal. Said through,
I did not say that. I did not say that about your daughter. Though.
No, you didn't.
Although I have said that about somebody's daughter.
Yeah, said through clenched teeth. Duh. Isn't it obvious? Yawn. Mark is bored with Wade's story. Can I sing the song? It's VoxBox. Unky Wade. Mark wants to keep a Blu-ray. Yeah, an awesome movie. Cool and stuff and junk. Mark gets down with the young people.
Ooh, I said that today.
You did. It was awesome.
Well, thanks. By the way, I love Dublin. Dublin's awesome.
Yeah, it's a great place.
It's a great time.
Longtime listener Eric Altieri says, Mark and Wade, what would you say is the best website or websites for comprehensive database of the releases of movies on home video? Say, charting them from VHS through Blu-ray, including Laserdisc, Betamax, DVD, etc. With so many titles having a myriad of releases, it's hard to keep track. Any ideas? I don't know of any site that keeps track of everything from all formats, from VHS through Laserdisc, through everything. I don't know any site that actually manages that comprehensive of a database. You sort of have to go to like IMDb sometimes and dig down into the guts of a movie's listing to see if an individual movie has had different releases. But for just DVD and Blu-ray, I always go to DVDpricesearch.com. I find that to be the most comprehensive list.
I agree.
That's the best one that I've found. But if any of our listeners know of anything better, by all means, send it along and help Eric and the rest of us find something more comprehensive. And then Jason Vargo says, Wade, got a question for you. Been around the block more than a few times regarding video quality and all the different terms, but you just used one I need your help to explain. You said latitude in Lincoln was very good or something to that effect. What is latitude in regards to picture quality? To kind of, we were both talking about latitude. And basically, to clarify that, latitude is a photographic term. It is the range of detail relative to light that you can see in what film captures. And film, as a capture format, is still superior to any digital format, mainly because of the latitude. For example, if you shoot a room where there's a completely dark corner and then there's another corner that's totally brightly lit, a film with a really great latitude will show you all the detail in that really dark corner, and it will still enable you to see detail in the really brightly lit corner. It won't lose any of that. That's your latitude. It's the range of detail that you can see in from dark to light. Digital, even now, really good digital, it'll either blow out the bright spot or it'll just drop the dark all the way into chalk. And as a reproduction format, digital does a very, very good job of giving you the latitude that you capture on film. So Lincoln, with all of its great latitude, and you can say this about any Malick film as well, is reproduced beautifully on Blu-ray. But when you're putting it down, it's different from actually having to capture it in real time, because you don't have to put it down necessarily in real time. The transfer process is a much, there's more flexibility, more elasticity. When you're capturing something, it's real time. The camera's going, and it's got to grab all of that information that's coming through the lens, and it's got to drop it onto the chip in real time. And to be able to handle that much light and that much range and that much latitude, there's a level of processing and algorithmic complexity and efficiency that they just haven't been able to push these cameras to, at least not at an affordable level yet. So that's why we talk about latitude. It's a film thing.
So basically, if I could say this in English, because I don't know what you just said.
Okay.
When you shoot film,
yeah,
sometimes you overexpose it to get the effect you want. Sometimes you underexpose it to get the effect you want. I believe you're saying that latitude represents the amount that you can overexpose or underexpose your film and still get a good picture.
Pretty much, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I said that in 5 seconds.
Kyle Stevens, I've now seen both parts 1 and 2 of the animated movie The Dark Knight Returns, and I must say they should have just recast Ledger and made that instead of The Dark Knight Rises. This is the first time I can say the animated movie far exceeds the live-action counterpart. The animated movie is more compelling. Sure, for the sake of the Nolan universe, cut out the Superman section instead of mutants, make the gang in Part 1 the League of Shadows with Bane as leader. If you haven't watched the 2 animated movies, I highly recommend it. The last scene with the Joker is more engaging and conveys the twisted relationship Batman shares with him better than anything Nolan has ever done. Even the soundtrack's more Batmanish than Zimmer's. This movie is what Rises should have been. Kyle Stevens. I've heard that from a lot of people. Actually, I've heard a lot of people say that's just they felt like that was a missed opportunity and the wrong people made the Batman movie.
Really?
Yeah.
I disagree with that. Although although I love the third film, I thought it was great. I'm still waiting to figure out how Bane actually dies in it, or maybe he doesn't die.
I don't know.
They bust through a wall. He gets hit by something. I can't remember. Bane, falls and tumbles into another wall, and then you never see him again.
And last one before we get to our Vox Box is no, not yet. Tim Struble says, Dear Gods, I've been getting more into the lesser-known films and Criterions of late. Now I bought The Adventures of Buckaroo Banzai and The Eighth Dimension, and I'm peeved that there are no English subtitles. I have moderate to severe hearing loss and often use subtitles, especially for a lot of British stuff. Now, why do some studios release films without subtitles? I've seen it on some newer films. It bothers me. I was forced to find a subtitle file and watch the movie on my computer, but I have a high-def TV and a recliner for a reason. I also wish to know if more seasons of St. Elsewhere will ever get released. Only season 1 seems to be available. As always, you guys are my favorite podcast. Thank you, sir. And he says, P.S., why hasn't Mark contracted diabetes yet from all the baking? Mark?
Why haven't I?
I don't know.
Because you know what? It's going to happen. There's a countdown.
Okay.
And I often wonder that, actually. Because I do love junk food.
The first syllable of diabetes is die.
So you're saying...
And the last one is tease. I'm just saying. There's something about that. So
you're saying that if I eat a lot of junk food, it's a tease of how I will eventually die.
Maybe.
Which is of diabetes.
I'm just saying.
Well, I don't care. I love junk food.
First off, on St. Elsewhere, I wrote him back. I wrote Tim back and said basically the problem is with a lot of these films or a lot of these TV series that the first season is like a trial balloon and they float it out there, and if it doesn't sell well, they don't even bother with the rest of the seasons, or they relegate them if the studio has a manufacturer-on-demand wing like Fox, Fox Direct or whatever it is, Fox Connect, or Warner Archives. That then they will just kind of dump those over there into the manufacturer-on-demand wing. St. Elsewhere may happen to it as well. Like Alice and Daktari became Warner Archive manufacturer-on-demand MOD titles. So we'll see. It's about whether or not it actually has an audience. So I hope so, because it's a really good show. St. Elsewhere was one of the first shows to kind of pioneer a demographic appeal. It never rated highly, but it rated high enough with the people who had lots of money. So it was always near the bottom of the ratings, but it just pulled people who bought BMWs and Mercedes.
Denzel Washington.
But as far as the subtitles, I think that's a really, really good idea. I've heard that complaint from other people who have not just hearing loss, but families where there are like parents or grandparents who don't speak English well, and if they want to watch the movie together, they'll put the subtitles on. So that the people who don't understand English well can at least read it, and it helps them sort of follow along a little bit better. But
they don't speak English goodly.
Thank you. But anyway, it's unfortunate because it really doesn't cost that much to do it. They always have a subtitle track. That's part of a delivery element for a movie. You always have that track. So it's not like they actually would have to spend money to have somebody build the subtitles. It's part of the movie. It's there. They have it available. They just don't spend the money or the time to throw it in. And it doesn't cost anything. So it's a good point. And I would say complain to the distributors about it. I'll certainly raise it when I have an opportunity. All right, Mark, we've got time for it. We're going to close out with Voxbox.
We are?
We're going to do it.
Can I sing the song?
Sing the song.
You're ready for me to stop, but I'm not stopped yet. Stop that. Take your head off the space bar with Voxbox.
Hello there, Mark and Big Daddy Wade. This is your pal from across the globe, Alexander Burlika. And I have a bit of an Oscar question here. So I was browsing through the list of Best Picture winners, and I noticed that there are some interesting discrepancies between the nominees for the Oscar and the actual credited producers for the movies. Two examples caught my attention: Crash and The Departed. Now, with Crash, there's about, I think, 6 or 7 producers credited in the movie, including Don Cheadle and Bob Yari. But the nominees and subsequent recipients of the Best Picture Oscar were much fewer. There was Paul Haggis, Bobby Moresco, and Kathy Schulman, I believe. And I seem to remember Bob Yari making a little noise about him being excluded from the nomination and demanding to be reinstated and getting the Oscar. And with The Departed, the credits list 3 producers: Brad Pitt, Brad Gray, and Graham King. But only King was nominated and got the award. Which leads me to my question. What's the deal here? How are the nominees for Best Picture determined? Are they submitted by the studio, or are they selected by the Academy? If it is the latter, then does the Academy have some kind of qualification procedure for a producer to be suitable for a Best Picture nomination? And do they have to prove it somehow, or is it something else entirely? Because, to be honest, I don't get it. Thanks in advance for the answer, and once again, Wade, my big congratulations on your little bundle of joy. Oh, and P.S. A while ago, Wade was having trouble pronouncing the last name of the director of Elena. So here it is. For future, you can use this soundbite. The director of The Return, Exile, and Yelena is Andrei Zvyagintsev. Burlika out.
Sweet. We always love getting Vox boxes and mail from Alexander. He always asks such interesting questions. And
that's actually 2 different questions. One question is...
I'm never going to pronounce that woman's name correctly.
You forget it.
Or his name, whatever. I'm never.
Name.
Yeah, I'm never going to pronounce it correctly ever. I'm just going to.
So the first question is, who submits Best Picture nominees? And the other question is, when there are more than, let's say, 3, I'm taking off the answer, when there's more than 3 producers on a film, which producers actually wind up getting the nomination?
Rule 16, special rules for the Best Picture of the Year award. The individuals who shall be credited by for Academy Award purposes must have screen credit of producer or produced by. Persons with screen credits of executive producer, co-producer, associate producer, line producer, produced in association with, or any other credit shall not receive nominations or Academy statuettes. The nominees will be those 3 or fewer producers who have performed the major portion of the producing functions. And it was 2. At the time of Crash, it was 2. They upped this to 3. They were a little more flexible about it. In determining the number of producers eligible for the nomination, a bona fide team of not more than 2 people shall be considered to be a single producer if the 2 individuals have had an established producing partnership for at least the previous 5 years, and as a producing team have produced a minimum of 5 theatrically released feature motion pictures during that time. The producer's branch executive committee will designate the qualifying producer nominees for each of the nominated pictures. The committee has a right in what it determines to be a rare and extraordinary circumstance to name any additional qualified producer as a nominee. In other words, they're sick and tired of people throwing around and selling producer credits just to get movies made. It's like, oh, I'm a producer because I gave them $150,000. That doesn't make you a producer. So they actually will sit down and they'll call people in from a production and they will interview the cinematographer and the gaffer and the grip and the actors, and they'll say, who really produced this movie? Like, did you see this guy on set or this woman on set? Did you ever see them? What do you know about their involvement? And they'll interview people. It'll be like a full-on IRS audit, and they will determine Bob Yari didn't do jack with Crash. He may have helped get it made, but nobody saw him. He wasn't actually involved in producing, the nuts and bolts producing of the movie. That's what Yari was mad about. He felt like they couldn't have done this movie without me, and then they cut me out of my Oscar. Kind of a cheeseball move on his part because he was never going to win that. It just made him look like, Mr. Sour Grapes. He should have just said, I'm happy just to be involved. He should have been gracious about it, but instead he had to be like an awards hog. And that, that's going to hurt him in the future. So that's basically it. It's a complicated thing. The studio will submit a lot of names, but, it's ultimately up to the Academy to make that determination.
That's right.
That's it.
And not everybody's happy about that.
Yeah. Excellent question, Alexander. And with that,
Wait a second.
What?
Second part of the question. When it comes to who submits the pictures,
studio.
The studio does.
Yeah, studio does. Yeah, studio submits those. But and that's why a lot of people get nominated for actor or actress when they should be in other categories, supporting or vice versa. It's because the studio decides how to divvy that up.
That is right, and sometimes it's very political because they know that somebody has a better shot at a supporting actor nomination because the other supporting actor nominees will be too strong.
Entirely true. All right, and with that, we are done. Mark, how are we going? How are we signing out this week?
There's only one way, Wade, we can sign out this week. And until then, the balcony is closed.